Welcome to the Ultimate Bloons TD6 strategy series, where I'm going to be showing you strategies for every single tower from the Dart Monkey to the Beast Handler and every single path in between. This will show you how to diversify your setup and get better, along with seeing some stats, tips and tricks, and all of the strategies for every single one of the towers. And although that the series is geared more towards Chimps mode, this will also show you a lot of tips and tricks that apply to the standard game and will allow you to win with a new style. So today we're going to the middle path sub, which is the preemptive strike. It also has the first strike and the ballistic missile. So let's just get right into these guys. They all do extremely different things, so let's take a look at it. The ballistic missile is an early game damage tower and a spam strategy. You'll usually see it more for the spam, but they're actually kind of rare. First strike is a round 100 solution, extremely common tower, and then preemptive strike does a whole bunch of stuff that a lot of people might not be aware of, so we can actually take a look at it, and it's pretty cool. Here are the stats they're all going to go by, but basically what I said before about the ballistic missile is that you don't really see it used a whole lot. The triple guns is obviously used way more, probably because it is better, but ballistic missile is also a pretty fun tower that you might want to try using in both just singulared out and a spam strategy, much like the triple guns. The first strike you see a lot. This is definitely the most common out of all of these guys, mostly just for its ability on round 100, that specific one case, and it does it very well, so it's used a lot. And then we have the first strike. No, this is not the first strike, this is the preemptive strike. Very cool. But it does a whole lot of things. So you can see there's like a whole lot of attacks and stuff. Basically, it just does like a Moab assassin attack to every new blimp that comes out. So now let's take a look at the cross path. So for the cross path, if you're doing this as an early game damage for the ballistic missile, you'll want 032. The airburst helps out a lot for the early game, and it's very nice. When it comes to a spam strategy, you'll get 031 because the airburst does not increase the damage of the missile, and we're mostly using the synergy with subcommon damage for the missile. And then sometimes 230 can be better, not really, it just depends on the map, sometimes, rarely. Anyways, preemptive, you're going to want to get 052. All the stats are buffed up with the preemptive, and then for the first strike you're going to be getting this guy just to pop the bat open. You leave it at 040. There's no reason to really get any cross path for that. It's a little bit of complications. They're all a bit different. They're all very different towers, so they're getting very different cross paths. Now when it comes to the buffs, your ballistic missile pretty much will not have any buffs. Within the spam strategy or by itself, you just have that guy. He's going to be doing damage. The first strike is the same thing, no buffs applied to him, because we're really only using that guy to kill the bad, so there's no reason to do it. And then when you have your spam strategy with the ballistic missile, you will, I guess, end up having a buff, which is a subcom, but no applied buffs will be put onto it besides the village. When you're using the strategy as a whole, you can bring in Glue Storm as one option to round off the strategy. You could also pair it with like another damage tower. We'll look more at that strategy. It has a lot of wiggle room and can be done in a lot of different ways, but the individual subs will not be receiving any buffs, like no alc buff or anything like that. The first strike, as I mentioned, you're just going to first strike. It uses its ability. You can't really buff that ability in any way whatsoever. You could do like a plutonium reactor to decrease its cooldown. That's useful in some maps, but for most times it's not. Anyways, for the preemptive strike, an alc buff can actually be pretty good. It has a crazy amount of damage when it comes to the missile and the air burst, so you getting the alc buff can do actually a pretty good amount. And then you can also give this guy subcom, and he's going to go even more crazy, being able to one-shot the fortified DDTs, which we'll see very well. And for maps it's good on, it's maps anywhere with a good cluster of water that will be right next to the track. So I wouldn't actually really recommend using this on Pat's Pond, but Pat's Pond is a map where it technically could be done. It just would probably be pretty difficult because this is a very hard map. Anyways, just a good cluster water, which is very different from the other subs like the airburst or the advanced intel triple guns, which you'll see a lot more common. Like on this map, it's going to be absolute haywire and it's going to shoot in random directions. So the ballistics have a pretty cool, unique way that can be used. And when it comes to the heroes, either you're going to approach it as doing like the full ballistic, just having a ton of ballistics and glue storm in there. You're going to want one of the like Pat Fusty or Brickle that will buff them up pretty well. But if you're doing it with just like another random tier 5 applied after, it doesn't really matter what hero you use. You might want to focus more on that other tier 5 by any chance, but you can also use the other thing. So when it comes to the objectives, let's take a look at the ballistic spam, first strike timing, ballistic early game, and then the preemptive DDT and clean up damage with the preemptive too. So a lot of interesting things, and these are some strategies that you may have never seen before. So for the first example, I'm going into Luminous Cove. This is the new map on Chimps mode. It came out for the mer monkeys, but we aren't going to be using any mer monkeys. I'm going to be bringing Brickle with me too, so let's just get right into this. I'm going to also, I guess, showcase a little bit a ballistic missile in the early game here, but basically what I'm trying to do is that I'm trying to get up a reactor just so we can reveal camo and stuff. Normally I would probably want to get a discount village and stuff, like 2 discounts, drums in there too, kind of more eventually into the 40s, but this map we can't really get villages in there, so really any land towers at all, unless I want to do like a carrier and ice or ice bridge. So we're just gonna do it without any of that. I'll just have a reactor to deal with the camos, but it will still be pretty fun. So we're gonna get that. We're going to get the ballistic missile, and the ballistic missile is going to do pretty good in the early game. Again, it's not as technically good as a triple gun, well, Alpha triple gun, but it's still actually pretty good and definitely can be used on most of the maps very nice and easily. So this is something that if you want to try to switch things up, it might be pretty cool. I'm just going to be going for the spam strategy, so I won't be getting air burst on it this time. If you're just like going to have a early game damage, you might want to get air burst. It will push you a bit further, but just because I'm not doing that, we're going to skip that. And then I'm going to be going into the sub commander. I'm going to be trying to get the sub commander before round 63, so that means we're going to start saving up before round 49. That will give me the sub commander before round 63. So with that in mind, I can still have some money to spend, so we'll get some more ballistic missiles, and that will do enough damage. Now when it comes to the cross path for the sub commander, because you aren't really going to have like any advantage with the intel on this map, I decided to get a 025, which is an interesting choice. It's technically stronger on this map, but honestly, I'm not really sure if that was the right decision. This isn't something that I'm going to be mentioning in the subcom episode, but this is kind of like a very, very specific case scenario where this one might be better. And when I say might, it technically has a disadvantage. If I got range, I might have been able to get a few more ballistics in, because the ballistics do have to be in range of the sub commander itself. So as you can see here, I might have been able to grab more if I got 205, or at least just even 105 sub commander. It does a pretty good amount of damage when it's the 025. If it was like on a longer map, when it's 205, it would still obviously be way better than 025, and it would do some good damage there too. But just for this case scenario, I went for a 025. Again, typically, like if you're on a map where you'll get advantage from the intel, you'd want to do that. And if you are able to get like a few more ballistics in, at least like 2 or 3, I'd recommend definitely doing that and going for the intel. Anyways, I got a ton of ballistics still, even with the short range, and this is a lot of ballistics. I'm going to be doing a lot of damage. These are all buffed up, and they'll deal with the ceramics and Moabs quite well. The big heavy balloons are not the greatest in DDTs too, so I got the glue storm in there. I can use the glue storm and the naval tactics abilities to run things around, and from here I could get just another tier 5. I actually bought a grand sabo there. That really wasn't the plan. Just a regular sabo will do. We'll have to talk about that grand sabo in a later episode and how it's not actually really that good, but it does have a funny interaction that you can use it within Chimps mode. Anyways, for another tower, just to get some damage in, pull the consistency through, I went for a ground zero, which is an interesting choice. You probably wouldn't want to do this because there's a lot of abilities to hurdle around, unless you like to hurdle around so many abilities, but normally just that naval tactics, the glue storm, the sabo, and the mega mine, you should be able to work around that, and it will be able to easily clear it. Along with that, if you were on a map where you could really have like villages and get some land towers in here. Land towers are pretty tough to come by in this map. A relentless glue would be really good. The Saba will be able to take care of the DDTs, maybe a few mob presses for the ZOMGs, and that would really nail things together. But I was still able to use all these abilities. Ground Zero comes in at a nice time, clean some stuff up. Everything's all super chill, super nice, and that's going to be a win. Now, there's another way that you could also do this. You could also just kind of throw preemptive in there, and it will do pretty good too, but I'm going to save a preemptive showcase for the next run. In the meantime, let's just take a look at just throwing in ballistic for early game. Can also bleed into the mid game a little bit and still be effective. And if you're super conscious about saving money, if you're planning on getting a first strike, this would actually save money on your defense in total compared to getting a triple guns, which is one possible advantage of this. So you could just have your early and mid game have that ballistic missile going and then upgrade that to a first strike so you don't have to spend more money. And when it comes to first strike timing, I'm just going to show you a really cool easy trick around this. So if you have consistent damage coming in, like the damage coming in is always the same. For example, if I just have this 502 sniper, he's going to be whacking this guy until it takes it down. I can count how long it takes to go from one damage phase to the next. So here I counted it took about 12 seconds to go from one damage phase to the next. So when it goes to the last damage phase, I'm then going to count 2/3 of how long it takes to go from one damage phase to the next. So here it pops, so goes to the last damage phase, that's the last damage phase. Then I'm going to count 8 seconds, which is 2/3. Use the first strike ability, and the thing will go down in one fell swoop. No issues there. This only really works if you have consistent damage. If your damage isn't consistent, you're gonna have to play a good guessing game. But this allows me to get it like every single time. I really never have any issues with this in some like extreme challenges where the map is short and damage is like being done super quickly, and like sporadic bursts could be a little difficult. But when it's very consistent, nice and easy laid out, I usually don't have any issues with it. So now let's take a look at the next example, which is going to be on Flooded Valley here. Very cool map, and I'm just going to be taking a look at using the preemptive strike more as a showcase of itself. So I'm going to be, just because this map is harder, I can't really get into a preemptive strike, and so instead of doing that, I'm just going to get a flagship first here with a little bit of a scuffed early game, and then I'm going to be allowed to go into my preemptive strike. I'm going to want to get this guy sooner than later because we're going to have to get the subcom and all that before things get really spicy. Because once we get subcom, it's going to buff up the preemptive's capabilities a lot more. It's going to be able to do pretty good cleanup. So the initial attack is going to like do the 750 damage. I forget how much it goes up with subcom, but a bit more, and then the ballistic missile and the air burst should be able to do pretty well cleaning up like the ceramics and the balloons. It's not totally consistent, so I'm going to get a little bit of help, but once we get that, it's going to be very nice and very good. And then also with the subcom, you'll be able to one-shot fortified DDTs, and you can first strike inside the bad also with the preemptive strike. So that means we're going to have a 100% DDT solo. This guy's going to take out every single DDT in the entire game if you can at least first time the first strike correctly. There's no like timing issues with the other DDTs. It's just going to plop and kill them down. So that's pretty cool. It will take out every single DDT. If you have the preemptive strike, DDTs will not be an issue. So knowing this, you can throw this into other setups. If you don't get the subcom, then you will not be able to take out the fortified DDTs directly. So I guess if you can take out like a handful of regular DDTs, then you should be able to take out round 99 with a preemptive in your arsenal. So you can just throw that into other setups and it will do a little bit of cleanup too, just as a random bonus tower to help with the DDTs. A lot like Prince of Darkness in a way, kind of the same tower, except it will help out you on round 100 a lot more than a Prince of Darkness would. Anyways, I basically, in the setup, I get the carrier flagship. I'm going to get an alk buff on top, so we can alk buff Pat Fusty and the preemptive strike. So we'll get that, we'll get the stem, we'll get the preemptive strike. It's hiding back there in this video, but it's there. And then I'm going to save up for subcom. You can get that on round 92, and now we're going to crush. I can use Pat's Roar to ramp things up. I'm going to get a balloon impact there, as I mentioned before. That's just going to help me deal with some of these balloons a little bit, and watch round 95 come out. The DDTs just go away, like they disappeared. It's like they didn't even show up to the party. Wow, very cool. Lastly, to round the strategy off, we have pretty much everything covered. I just want to get some of my support up a bit, so I might want to get like a relentless glue, but I'm going to take things a little bit different. I'm going to overclock Pat Fusty, and this basically makes him slap like crazy and nothing's getting past, and I basically destroy the rest of this. Just first strike time, use that same trick as before, and we win. Anyways, these are very cool towers. Definitely recommend trying them out, as always. Thanks for watching. If you want to help out the channel, you can check out these new videos, like and subscribe for more content, support the channel by becoming a member, and joining the Discord to chat with the community. Bye!